And we are live. What's up,
Hello.
ladies and gentlemen? Woo. Welcome to Crossing the Streams, everyone. The greatest show in the history of shows about shows that you should be watching, streaming on your favorite streaming platforms. We got Howard, we got Bob, and we got our special guest, Jason, with us today.
Hi, Jason.
Hey,
Hello.
Jason.
Hi, Jason.
How's everybody?
As always, we kick off with a little theme song. We're going to let Jason start us off. Take it away, Jason.
Here's the story of some lonely fellows who spend way too much time watching the TV. All of them have jobs and friends. Well, not really. Just between you and me.
Take it away, Roz.
They made a live show out of their hobby. Every TV watcher's TV watching dream. Jeff, Ron, Zach, Sal, and Bob, and there's Howard. They call it Crossing Streams.
And then one day they went live on all the platforms. You could hear the people laugh and shout and scream. Still can't find another word that rhymes with platform. But man, we cross the streams.
We cross the streams. We cross the streams.
That's
the way we do it here. We cross the streams. I know Jerry was singing. Jerry was singing along.
He was. Jerry says hello.
Who we got here?
We got Jerry. We got Lee.
Woo, singing. Oh, there's Lee. Spelled L-I. She is a friend of the show.
She's a friend of everyone.
We love her, and a friend of the Sal and Bob show as well. She is a multi-level fan.
Lee watches everything, and so does Jerry. Jerry and Lee are super fans. Super fans.
I'm having issues with the rapidly increasing bald spot here. That's why we're good for the show. I normally do. I didn't wear one today.
Because I hate the way
unless
I invest in makeup. I then the light when it hits my forehead, I'm like, that's why Bob has barely any light.
Well, yeah, I can see your pores. So that's probably not good. I don't even. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Not even sure what pores are.
I don't know. Pores. What are pores? We're gonna
holes in your face.
Holes in your face. Speaking of in your face, we're here to put some shows in your face. Some shows that you should be watching. For example, last week, episode 35, and every episode is available on our YouTube channel. Just go to YouTube, search The Jeff Dwoskin Show, and all these Crossing the Stream episodes are there. 35, soon to be 36 hours of enjoyment, guaranteed enjoyment. Last week, Clarkson's Farm, we discussed. Jungle Cruise.
Easy for you to say.
I know. Assault in the Ring and Titans. I got a little heated with Titans. And then this week we're at episode 36. We're discussing Cradle of Champions, Red Dog, Val, and Young Sheldon. That's right.
I'm looking forward to all of these.
These are good.
Especially
good
Val.
Fantastic.
I missed last week. What did you get heated about Titans?
We're not going to go through that.
I love that show. Absolutely.
You can watch all the heat in episode 35.
Yeah.
Bob is shooting from inside a walk-in closet. I'll give him till 8:06.
Does it look like that?
Great news, everyone. Bob actually, if you notice, he has actual professional headphones and a new computer, and I'm assuming a decent microphone. Bob has never sounded better, so we're expecting absolutely no
perfection.
Snap, crackle, and pop from Bob today.
There will be no snap, crackle, and pop from here on. We've figured out the Wi-Fi issue. We figured out the computer issue. We have a brand new MacBook. It's going to be great from now on.
That is awesome. Speaking of, so before we get to the shows, there was a couple last minute things that we wanted to talk about. Some things that just came out. One of them was the Suicide Squad, which I think most of us saw. Jason, did you see that as well? I'm assuming you did. Yes.
I have not seen it.
You have not seen it.
I'm a bad geek this week.
Oh wait. Oh, that reminds me. I'm sorry. We missed the whole. This is our guest, Jason
Oh.
Taylor. Forgot to do it. Jason, tell everyone all about you, and then we'll get into the Suicide
Well,
Squad.
since this is a TV related podcast, I'll tell you about my Matt Talk podcast, where I talk about Matlock once a week with my buddy John. We go through each episode.
Oh my God.
We actually have a huge following, which is really surprising. But yeah, Matt Talk. You can find it anywhere you find podcasts. You can also check out the other podcast I do, which is the Three Geeks podcast.
You should get a sponsorship from Sign of the Beef Carver.
That's what I'm saying. Or
Sign of the Beef Carver. Is that like a nationwide chain? Is that a nationwide
I
thing?
don't know, but it was such an old, awesome thing for so many years.
My
I'll tell you
wife refuses to walk in the place, and my daughter just moved, and she's literally 100 feet from one. And so I said to her, my daughter's like me; she'll eat anything. So I'm like, I wanted to go and take her, and she looked it up on the internet, looked at the pictures of the food, just to give everyone an idea. If you don't know what Sign of the Beef Carver is, it's basically a cafeteria style restaurant aimed and targeted at people who probably likely won't be alive in the next 3 weeks. Is that fair?
But they have prime rib, which is sort of a weird anachronism about
prime
that
rib,
thing.
but it's all buffet. Prime rib, you can get shrimp cocktail.
Yeah.
You can get like this fish, and then they have special stuff you can get there too. She looked at the photos. Now, these are photos. Generally, when you're putting together your website, you're going to make your food look as good as possible. She calls up the website, shows me the pictures, and says, I will never eat this food.
I have to tell you, fall of 2019, obviously way before the pandemic. There's one right by my old house on Woodward in Royal Oak, and my in-laws had driven past it, and they're like, let's go there. We'll take you guys to dinner. And I'm like,
okay.
I have to tell you, I had the prime rib. I had prime rib, like a baked potato, or like the food was really good. It was really, really good.
The prime rib is good.
I remember enjoying it. I wanted to go for the memory. The one you're talking about, Howard, is temporarily closed.
Oh.
All right, let's bring us into the current state here. Let's talk about the Suicide Squad real quick before we get into the ones we originally had planned. Howard, you saw the movie? And Bob? And
I did.
Everyone but the guy who was on the podcast about 3 weeks. Okay.
No.
So here's what I thought. I thought it was really good. I enjoyed it. I watched it at home. I watched it on HBO Max, and I loved James Gunn's take on it. It was very violent, but I enjoyed it, and they killed a lot of people.
Yeah.
And so I think that
spoiler alert. You have to spoil
it's called the Suicide Squad. So and they lived up to that, which I thought was great. And I think he picked some really interesting characters that I think most people wouldn't have picked, like Polka Dot Man and stuff, that you really started to care. You cared about some of these characters. And I overall, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah. I mean, I did as well. It was a little disjointed from a plot standpoint. And again, other than really the two Marvel last Avengers movies, where like all these superhero movies really struggle to have a bad guy, right? It's just like who they were fighting in this one, like who were they fighting? It just and they all struggle with that, and this one did too. But as with all our arguments over the Snyder cut on this show, my absolute distaste for DC movies, this was a good movie. It wasn't a great movie, but it was good and it was entertaining for sure. It actually brought some humor to the DC universe, which it severely lacked up to this point. Yeah, I thought Cena was great. He was great in this. and Stallone as King Shark was great as well. Nom nom. So yeah, it finally had some good humor, and hopefully they can build on that now with a lot of the characters. Hopefully the Cena series, the Peacekeeper series, is going to be great as well.
It's interesting because James Gunn has an interesting way, like Guardians of the Galaxy, right? I never read those comics. I didn't know anything about it. None of those characters I'd never heard of any of them prior to seeing that movie, but he made you care about every one of them. And Guardians of the Galaxy quickly became one of my favorite Marvel movies.
Mine too.
Even the sequel, which isn't, I think, as good as the first one, is still enjoyable. The characters are just so great. And I think he did the same thing, like with Polka Dot Man, Ratcatcher 2. Like, I mean, who's not going to like Idris Elba? He kicked ass. But and the shark thing was just too cool. But John Cena was great. I really liked the one guy, Flag, from the old one, and Margot Harley Quinn. She was amazing in this movie.
She was.
Yeah. She absolutely owns that character. Like, she's just got it down now through all the movies, even the other movies which sucked. She's been great in them. I'm a fan of hers anyways. So so it was definitely enjoyable.
I heard that Harley Quinn felt like she had a reason to be there, and she just wasn't just a person with a bat chasing a cloud in the sky.
Yeah, and to Jerry's comment, I don't think I think it was more of a complete redo. Like, it was almost as if the first one didn't exist, kind of. I mean, I think it was just trying to erase the first movie. But the interesting thing is Harley Quinn does this crazy escape thing with her feet, and apparently that was really her. Like, she actually did that, which was insane. What did you think? Do you have anything? Do you have anything else you want to add, Bob? Or
I do. I thought that now ironically, the DC version, every DC movie is a disappointment to me. I've never seen a DC movie where I thought, okay, they got it. Marvel gets it about 90% of the time. And I'm not a geek about any of these studios, but the irony of all this was that James Gunn's movie was so much more entertaining than that piece of garbage DC first off Suicide Squad, but it only earned about 20% of what the DC version did. It did something like $28 million to DC's 125. What does that mean? I don't know, and I don't care. They can figure out how much money to make. But for my money, this one was so much more entertaining. It was so much funnier and so trippier and loopier that I was engaged the whole time.
Yeah, the first one, they were trying to make a James Gunn movie, and in this one, they got James Gunn to make the James Gunn movie. So I'm sure that
that may be it. Yeah,
the guy who made the first one, David Ayer, he says that the movie that they put out was not his movie, and that his movie was 100 times better, which may be true, but it's the same thing with like the Snyder thing. I mean, how many times do we as an audience need to sit through, when these studios freak out and don't let the visionaries do it the way they want to do it? I can't remember what they called it. There was some kind of syndrome that they called the reason it had such a low box office. One, they thought because of the Delta variant skyrocketing, but also there's a history of sequels being 100 times better than the first ones, but tanking when the first one is horrible. And so they don't trust, they don't come back, they don't they won't come do it. The fact that the first movie was because the first one was a huge hit, made hundreds of millions of dollars.
See, I don't get that though, because I'm not I love these superhero movies. I've seen them all. I'm not a big, I don't get into the granularity of it all. I don't know everyone's backstory and all that. I just know that they entertain me. So I saw the first Suicide Squad on cable and went, okay, this is boring me. It took me 3 tries to get through it, you know. Well, then the second one comes out. I at least did the research. I thought, okay, I'll go to Rotten Tomatoes. I'll go to Metacritic. They said it was great. And they said, why? So I went to see it again. It's kind of weird to me that these nerds who are so into this world wouldn't have done that, you know, wouldn't have done that much. And then went and seen this movie. It's a little.
It's also possible they saw it on HBO.
Okay.
Right? You know what I mean? Because the difference between this and the Black Widow one was Black Widow, you had to pay to see it. So they had numbers they could report. They could have released a report, but they just didn't. But,
so this one was just free on HBO?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Well, yeah, which is a subscription service, though, obviously. So that's factored in. Yeah, I didn't see it in the theater. I watched it at home, I mean, it definitely bodes well. HBO's doing the series with Cena, which is kind of what that last cut scene or end credit scene leads to. So yeah, we'll see if they continue DC making decent movies. Shazam was good.
I like Shazam.
So you stack this with Shazam, and you have entertaining movies for a change. So
speaking of which, and I know then we'll move on to the next one. But in an earlier episode, Howard reviewed Invincible on Amazon. I finally actually finished watching it. I binged it. I'd only seen like the first episode in 10 minutes. I finished the whole thing over the last couple of days. It's freaking really good. It's really good.
It's really good. It's violent as shit.
Wow.
The animation is actually terrible, but interestingly terrible.
Yeah. It's almost like they're trying to do. It's more like a graphic novel than sometimes there's.
It's
okay.
It's like watching Battle of the Planets from the 80s. Do you remember Battle of the Planets?
How about Battle Beyond? What was it? Battle Beyond the Stars?
Wait, we have an important comment. If you want to become famous, buy followers, primes, and views on big. Freaking
okay. Thank you.
You know the show is huge when we're getting hit by spam. No, I don't even know what JCVD means, but thank you.
I don't need to reference it. He's right there.
Jason, and then if you can watch a replay of Jason singing on YouTube after the show is over. Tim, thank you for joining us.
That was excellent.
Cool. All right. Hey, so there was another big geek moment that happened today. What If debuted today. It's the new Wednesday episodic Marvel show on Disney Plus. Howard, did you get a chance to watch it, or?
I've watched most of it. I had to stop right in the middle during the storm and make sure everything was battened down here. The number one thing I will say, the opposite of Invincible, the animation is incredible. It's literally, there's scenes that literally feel like they're jumping from the page of the comic book. I thought it was amazing, the animation. The other thing that I really love is, for the most part, the characters are voiced by the same people that did them in the movies, which adds a great touch to it. I found myself envisioning the scenes playing out in live action because the voices were so good and the animation was so good. So the storytelling is going to continue to be great. I collected What If comics.
I have them all too. Yeah.
There were some great ones.
So this was an actual print thing. What If?
Well, no. Well, what it is?
Yes and no.
Now, what it is now is basically it's sort of like a sequel to Loki, in a sense that this is the bust open of the multiverse. So
it's a primer,
right? So these are what if scenarios. What if this one thing?
I
happens?
see.
So
okay.
Episode 1 is what if Agent Carter became Captain America, or it was given the serum and became a super soldier. And so I really enjoyed it. I had one kind of major problem with it, which I don't. I feel like I'm like, am I getting? Is it major or am I getting too woke? Do you want to hear what it is? My
Yeah.
issue with it?
I do.
So my issue with it is this: I love the idea of her, and like every woman that they let be a superhero in Marvel, she kicks freaking ass. Matter of fact, I thought she kicked ass more than they had Captain America kick ass in the movies. So I had no problem with Agent Carter being Captain Carter. I thought that was awesome. The problem I had was the Steve Rogers character, who was not voiced by Chris Evans. He's the one of the few exceptions, but he gets he's the scrawny version of himself. He gets shot, somehow suddenly fine, and they build a whole storyline with him where I don't want to ruin it for anyone, but like they give him kind of like a quasi superhero thing, and they make the Howard Stark, Tony's father, who's in the Captain America as well, create basically like an Iron Man suit, and so he becomes this character alongside. Well, Captain America didn't have anyone alongside him, so why, if you're giving the woman the star thing, do you have to create a guy to help her? You know what I mean? It was just like, and first of all, if it's the what if scenario where Steve Rogers doesn't become Captain America, then he's no longer significant at all. So why make him significant at all to the story? Because he was nothing in the movie until he got the serum. And so to make him at all just seemed to be fan service to like keep him in the story longer. And like, but in reality, to me, the second he doesn't become Captain America and she becomes Captain Carter, that's the end of his story. I mean, maybe they can flirt with each other or whatever, but there's no reason he should have had 1 second more to be part of the missions or anything like that, because that wasn't him. I mean, that part didn't make sense to me, to be honest.
Well, I'm going to say that
I'm wondering what time Robin releases your balls.
No, but seriously, did it make sense that suddenly Howard Stark invents Iron Man when the entire concept of Iron Man and the exact version that it looked like was only made the way it was made because he was in the cave.
Sure.
That's all they had. And then in this version, he's got full disclosure of anything he could do. And he would come up with the same exact design. It just didn't, to me, it was just like, they were trying too hard. They should just let her be the hero and show that a woman can just be the hero without a man. That's my. Oh no!
Oh no! Who had?
Oh no!
Who had 952 in the bed?
Oh man, that was the over too.
Oh.
I love the fact now that we're slowly starting to see the plan, right? Like WandaVision was like, this is a great series. We kept saying, I hope it connects. It's going to connect in all these cool ways. We were wrong about every theory, but okay, great. Then Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which I don't think is going to connect in the same way. But Loki kicks the door open on the multiverse. And now you get to see what the multiverse is really capable of, right? With this series, and it's just going to lead to the movies. So it's great. I'm only going to cut Bob a little slack because there are power outages all over, and
it is possible his power went out.
Yeah, power or Wi-Fi, something like that. So I'm going to cut him slack this time.
Yeah, I love this because we were talking before camera about the multiverse and Spider-Man 3 not releasing a trailer, and I think one of the reasons Spider-Man 3 hasn't released a trailer is because I think Venom is going to tie into the multiverse as well.
It's possible.
I think that's going to be a shock because Sony wants a Spider-Man to be affiliated with Venom and Carnage, and getting the multiverse kicked off could give them that in the end when they split it all back up.
Yeah, Tom Hardy was saying he would do anything to go toe-to-toe against Spider-Man. The only issue I have with Venom or Carnage going against Spider-Man, in those movies, they seem to be 1,000 times more powerful than Tom Holland's Spider-Man. They didn't keep it like on par with like the Marvel movies in terms of the strengths of the villains and stuff. Those two seem like they would wipe the floor with with Tom Holland Spider-Man.
Well, the crossover for the two of them could conceivably be the Secret Wars that they've pitched as well. That'd be the perfect crossover for Venom and Spider-Man.
Secret Wars, Secret Wars is the origin of
Venom. Right.
And so they and the weird thing about, to me, like Venom, is they never mentioned Spider-Man, but yet Venom still looks like Spider-Man.
Right.
Which makes no sense, because he was like supposed to be evil Spider-Man, which maybe, I guess, they could imply. I'm texting with Bob. Talk for a minute.
Talk amongst yourselves.
Yeah.
But they're on different coasts. It's not like we have an internet or anything. Maybe they just haven't heard of Spider-Man.
Could be.
Venom is the anti-hero. No, I get that. Was he an anti-hero? But when he's up against Spider-Man, that makes him the villain. You're only the anti-hero when you're kind of a villain who's also the hero of that thing. Right?
Sorry.
Oh yeah.
Sorry.
Bob, did you have any comments on the Spider-Man multiverse?
I went into the multiverse for just a few moments there.
This is a variant of Bob. This
is the variant who doesn't disappear after 8 minutes. And
this is
the
insane.
entire time.
No, we should be good now. I apologize.
Just for the record, I cut you some slack because there is power outages and
I know, and that's what I've got going here. They're intermittent, and I have a generator that kicked on as soon as this went off, but it takes a moment to reboot. So,
oh wait, your power did go off?
Yeah,
but you still have internet?
He has a
I
generator.
do now. I do. I got a generator.
Oh, okay, got it.
I gotta get it. But there's like a 10-second. Well, I'm sorry. Anyway, I'm back.
No, it's good. We figured.
No, it's good.
We were just Jason was telling everyone how much you love Spider-Man.
Whatever.
So, all right. Well, we can move on.
What if could actually be the segment on what if Bob's made it through the entire show?
What if that moment where Bob blinked and entered the room but didn't leave the room. All right, Bob, we're going to let you go first with Cradle of Champions.
All right. So I appreciate you putting me first because, as you know, we have issues sometimes with my internet connection. I have many times done, and I appreciate you letting me do this, documentaries on boxing because I find boxing fascinating for a number of reasons. And I don't know if I've talked about it on this show before, but one of the reasons I love it is that it's very similar to stand-up comedy, which is what Jeff and I have done for 20 years. You are entirely on your own. There's nobody that's going to bail you out. If you're having a bad fight, if your opponent is knocking you around the ring, nobody's going to bail you out. If you're on stage and you have to do 45 minutes and 3 minutes in, you realize these people just don't like you, you got to figure out a way to survive that. So I've always liked that kind of comparison. Anyway, last week was sort of I don't want to say depressing, but it was a little bit dark. A documentary on somebody who had actually been, if not killed in the ring, certainly right after the fight. This one, Cradle of Champions, is joyous. This one is everything I love about boxing. It's everything I love about competitive boxing. It's amateur. It's the Golden Gloves. It's the level that I fought at many, many years ago. And it's a sort of in between thing where you're not an Olympian, you're not a pro, but you are sort of an elite amateur, and that's what this whole thing is about. This documentary is about the Golden Gloves, the New York Golden Gloves that are held in Madison Square Garden every year, and they took a break during COVID, as did everything. And it involves 500 boxers from all the boroughs in New York. And now you can imagine all the personalities and all the stories. And just imagine what I want to say here, like an American Idol, okay? And that's what this documentary is. It's an American Idol about Golden Gloves boxing, because everything is about the story. It's about the people that are being covered here. And it takes place over 3 months. And this particular competition has spawned over 40 world champions in its history. I think it's been going on for... Somebody talking to me?
No.
Did I miss that? Okay.
Oh,
don't be in awe. I'm just obsessed with this. So this competition, the New York Golden Gloves, has spawned over 40 world champions. That's more than the Olympics, the United States involvement in the Olympics over the same amount of time. And which is a very fascinating thing, and that's why they call it Cradle of Champions, because this is the breeding ground. These 5 boroughs in New York, this is where so many talented young people come out of, whether they're Black, Hispanic, white. But I think the commonality among all of them is that they come from underprivileged backgrounds. And so when you see these people pinning their hopes on winning the Golden Gloves title, it's such an inspirational thing. And some of these people are so inspiring to me, and they're so funny, and they're so warm. And some of the stories, like, for example, this particular documentary follows really 3 different people. One of them is Titus Williams, who was a featherweight. And a featherweight, I believe, I look back now, and I think it's 115 pounds, something like that. These are very little people, but little badasses, okay? So Titus Williams is a featherweight, an enormously gifted, funny, energetic young guy who he just wants to do his best for his family, for himself. He just loves what he's doing, and there isn't any other motivation for him but that. And then you go to a young lady named Nisa Rodriguez. She is a single mother from the Bronx. She's got a couple of kids, and she's fighting. And now this is something that never would have happened 20 years ago, but now they have women boxing, right? I'm not a big fan of that, and you can call me a chauvinist, whatever. I just don't like seeing women get hit. But this woman is so courageous, and she works so hard, and she pins so much on this, and understands what's going to happen for her if she wins this. She understands the marketing of it. She understands the idea that she's a good-looking girl, and she has the story, and she knows if she wins this thing, her life is going to change. So she works hard. She puts in the effort. And there's another young fellow named James Wilkins, who was a super featherweight, who lived in an apartment with 24 other people.
Jesus.
Yeah, imagine that. And I think there was 1 bathroom. I'd have to go back and look at that. But all of these 3, these are not the stereotypical. These are not the Fox News interpretations of neighborhood people and the people come out of these neighborhoods and boxers. These are articulate. These are funny. These are jubilant people who want to win so badly, and they don't have any illusions about what happens if they don't win, but they are energetically and joyously going for that brass ring. And I loved every minute of this, because you see these people coming out from situations that might crush some of us, right? Might crush other people, but they look at it as fuel to keep going, to do that extra round, to run that extra mile, to lose that extra pound to make weight. These are extraordinary people that are finally being given their due in my book, because they're not famous pros. I'm not going to give you I'll give you a little bit of their backstory, but I'm not going to tell you how their lives and their careers play out. This documentary is a few years old. I think it's 3 or 4 years old. Each of them had gone on to the pros. and each of them have met with a certain degree of success and a certain degree of failure, but all of them did it with balls and with courage and with the kind of energy that I wish that I still had in my life. And I think that people watching this would get such a kick out of seeing people enter this violent. I mean, it truly is. It's a violent sport, but all of them did it with good humor and with positive expectations, and they did the work. They didn't. None of these people skated in, right? So watch it, and then when you're done with it, look at what each of them became after the Golden Gloves, okay? Whether they won it or not, or whether they, came up a little bit short. That's the fascinating part to me. So I recommend this to anybody who's looking for a rags to riches or a rags to something in the middle story.
All right.
What channel was it on?
This was originally on Showtime. You can watch it on YouTube now. In fact, I watched it on YouTube, but I think there's some way you can get it on Showtime. But it's joyous.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Bob.
You're welcome.
All right. Well, let's go on to something I haven't seen myself, but I've seen the sequel to it, Young Sheldon. We're going to talk about not just the complete third season, but
there was a third season.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be a good show, actually. And I think Jason's about to tell us that.
I was a huge Big Bang Theory fan, but I watched about a season of television a day, so I could have come on here and talked about anything. But this was the one that was most shocking to me because the Big Bang Theory, it's a multicam, laugh track comedy, right? So I'm watching Young Sheldon with my daughter, the first season, and I'm noticing something different about the show, but it doesn't quite click until we get to season 2. This show doesn't have a laugh track. It's serialized. It does not feel like it belongs on CBS, and that just completely blew my mind because Chuck Lorre's involved. But it's also got Wallace Shawn as a recurring character. You remember him from The Princess Bride?
Yeah.
Craig Nelson, he plays a baseball coach, a little league baseball coach, which is fantastic. It's got Jim Parsons, doing the voiceover for the character. There's a lot of people out there say there's no family comedies on television right now. This is a darn good one. It's completely family friendly. My daughter and I, we went through it so fast. Season 4 is not out to stream for free yet, so we're gonna try to find it somewhere to watch. But this is actually surprisingly a good show to watch, especially with families. Because, like I said, it doesn't feel like a Chuck Lorre show. It feels like something you would see on ABC, maybe NBC, but not a CBS show. No laugh track, which makes the show even more enjoyable. And the kid that's playing the young Sheldon, he does such a good job of emulating Jim Parsons.
Yeah. I've only seen a couple minutes, but he has the mannerisms and the cadence down. I was not I like Big Bang Theory. I wouldn't call myself a huge fan. But that character is a great character. Really the one takeaway from Big Bang. So maybe I'll have to watch a little bit more to catch a little bit more of how he plays the young version of him.
The show gets better in its second season. Like I said, Wallace Shawn, he joins the cast in season 2, and he's pretty much a regular past that. Annie Potts plays Sheldon's grandmother, which is really cool seeing Annie Potts doing, this, and she's great, excellent on the show. This show is, I can't believe I'm saying this. I really enjoyed the show.
That's really cool. So a couple of things on Young Sheldon. Ed Begley Jr. is in it too, right?
Yes.
And who you can hear on
Jeff just interviewed him.
Recent guest.
Yeah. On you can hear on episode 65 of Live from
Bob
Detroit.
Newhart. Bob Newhart's on the show. He plays Professor Proton, which he played in Big Bang Theory. Reba McEntire's on the show. Jason Alexander plays the theater teacher. So
it must be a good show if they're getting that many people, because people must want to be on it. But here's an interesting fact, which you did not mention, is Young Sheldon's mom on the show is actually the daughter of the person who plays young Sheldon's mom on Big Bang Theory.
That is Laurie Metcalf's daughter.
That
is
is-
amazing.
That's Laurie Metcalf's daughter. That's why she sounds just like her mom.
Wow.
Laurie Metcalf. Okay, that's right. I'm mixing her up with the other.
Laurie Metcalf's the one from Roseanne also.
Yes,
She was
I'm
very
mixing
big
her
in
up
Roseanne.
with her daughter on that show.
Yeah, she
Okay.
plays Sheldon's mom on Big Bang Theory.
Okay.
And the person and her daughter in real life plays her as the mom.
A younger
I see.
version.
Okay.
The younger version.
Sort of the
So,
Gandolfini Many Saints of Newark theory. Just the prequel.
I saw a
Have the actual
BuzzFeed
stuff.
article. It was like, you wouldn't believe all these stars look so much like their parents. They played the young versions of them. You know, it's like, okay. But yeah, so all right, so that's cool. That's cool. All right, I'll have to check it out. I've maybe seen one episode. I didn't know.
Yeah, I've never watched it.
It just wasn't a show that I was gonna
No,
dive
it's
into. or
great for
something.
families. But you think a show like this,
Lee's a young Sheldon fan.
awesome.
Lee, yes.
But you would think a show like this would have references to the other show. They have one Big Bang Theory reference in the show so far, and it's very makes sense. Like there's a moment, spoiler alert, where Sheldon is by himself listening to a rocket go into space or something, and the voiceover says, at that moment I thought I'd never have friends," and then you see quick glimpses at all the other guys watching the same rocket glimpse in their house, and the kid they got to play young Howard Wolowitz was spot on. It was amazing.
Oh, that's funny.
The challenge, not to go off on Big Bang Theory, but the challenge I have with Big Bang Theory is the challenge I have with the multicam sitcoms is first season's usually okay. Like second, third season are great, really good. And then they just settle into patterns. And then it just feels like the same show over and over. There's very few shows that keep it that fresh for that long. Friends even was that way. The last couple seasons of Friends weren't great.
Wait, hang on. I mostly agree with you. I would say that some of the middle seasons of Friends wasn't great, and then it got good again.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. First
I stopped
couple
watching
of seasons
Friends
were
after a while.
Can I tell you something here? I have never seen a single episode of Friends or Young Sheldon.
I've never seen Friends. We watch. Well, let me say something about Big Bang. Stop me if I already told this story, but
or Big Bang.
The first season of Big Bang, I think, is legit funny show. The jokes are really funny.
Yeah.
And then I think it got a little lazier as it went on. I got into a Twitter fight with someone once because I was making a Big Bang Theory laugh track.
Oh yes.
Did I tell you this?
Yeah. You told this a couple weeks ago.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So anyway, I won't.
It was one of the writers, correct?
Yeah, it was someone on the show. I'm like, oops.
You were busting one of the writers of the show.
He's like, I would know. I'm there. And I'm like, I still don't believe him. But anyway. All right, so that's cool. All right, so young Sheldon. All right, so that's cool. All right, what do we got next? I think next we got an interesting thing. Looking forward to hearing this, Howard. Red Dog.
Red Dog.
Yeah. So I found this one. I was looking for a documentary to watch a week or two ago. And I was on Hulu. This is on Hulu, and I found it totally by accident. Knew nothing about it, and looked at the trailer. So it's a really interesting story that I very, very much enjoyed. It is the story of a guy named Luke Dick, who's a country music songwriter, and he grew up in Oklahoma City, and his entire childhood and into his early teens, he grew up basically spending his days with his mother, who had to take him to work at the Red Dog Saloon, which is the famous strip bar in Oklahoma City. So he really remembered, obviously, all these people and being around them, but he just one day in the last couple of years had his mother sitting on the front porch on camera and said, "You were a bartender, right?" And his mother said, "No, I was a stripper." And then he's like, "What?" So he starts interviewing his mother on film and going back over every aspect of her life, which is, his life story as well. And it's a really, it's kind of, it's a good, amazing family portrait, because he also then interviews a lot of the people that they work with. And this was in the 70s and the early 70s. The people that she worked with, they became her family, her best friends, multiple husbands, and he kind of unravels this and realizes how amazing this this collection of people were to his mother, especially, and how it all came together. It's poignant at times. She looks back on some of the people who she wished she could help with addiction issues. She looks back at her own issues with some of the men, and it helps him put a lot in his life in perspective. The stories that his mother tells are just, some of them you keep seeing and you're like, what? You got to be kidding me. Just talking about the partying that they did. And it's just amazing that it all came from all these people that just worked at this bar together. And, they were making ridiculous amounts of money in comparison to people their age. His mother started working there, I think, at the age of 15 or 16. But they have these bouncers, bartenders, other strippers that were all her best friends interviewing now, 40 years later. It was a really, really good watch. It's something so weird, but still, it was almost like a family playing out their history, but not an actual family, just a ragtag collection of people, like this bouncer named Tiny, who was called that because guys that he knew growing up he had a small unit, so they used to call him Tiny Peter, and he hated the Peter part. So he just, but he talks about how
that happens.
I know. Well, I've never had that issue. So he talks about they asked him how he got the job at the Red Dog. He said, I came in, I wanted to be the bouncer there, and they weren't necessarily hiring. So I walked up and I laid out the bouncer and said, your bouncer's crap. I'm going to be the bouncer now. And they're like, all right. And they hired him as the bouncer.
I'm your guy.
So yeah, I mean, it's the history of all these people together. And I really enjoyed it. It was totally out of nowhere. And I love that with documentaries, when you just find something that's entertaining and a great character study of people that are real. And that's what this was. So I really recommend it. Again, on Hulu, and it's great. It's really funny. I'm
going to check that out.
I really enjoyed it.
And that's on Hulu?
It's on Hulu. I think, it's on Hulu. I know it's on Hulu.
Very cool. Very cool. So we got one more for today. This is a documentary called Val that I watched.
I've been looking forward to this.
And
me too.
This is Val is a documentary on Val Kilmer, made by Val Kilmer. And so Val Kilmer, who I will say up front, I love Val Kilmer. I think he's one of the great actors. I always enjoyed him, no matter what he was in. And so this movie, so Val Kilmer had a video camera when people didn't have video cameras, kind of like he had the 500-pound video camera and he took it everywhere. So he happened to have been documenting his life along the way. And so this is his way of telling his story. So one of the reasons he's telling the story, and one of the touching things about it, he's doing this with his son, who for 3/4 of the movie provides Val Kilmer's voice. So Val Kilmer, if you've seen photos of him of recent, doesn't look like the Val Kilmer that we grew up knowing from Top Gun and all that kind of stuff. So he had cancer, he fought cancer, He survived the cancer, but it left him with 2 tracheotomies, and so the only way he can talk, literally, it was heartbreaking. Is it controls his breath, the air intake, and so the only way he can talk, and I will not imitate it, but is that he pushes on it to stop the flow of air for breathing, and then he can push out words. So it's hard for him to communicate, very hard. I don't want to say think Steve Hawking, but along those lines. So a lot of the voices he clearly wrote, the narration, and his son did it, unless it was him in footage that he took. So he takes us through his childhood, where he grew up, and he lived on this big area with this big house, and with his brothers and his mom and his dad. And his brother was probably would have been an amazing filmmaker. He was extremely creative. He's an artist, and had an epileptic fit in a hot tub and drowned when he was 15, I think 15. So there's actually movies, and they show you where he has his brother's art like in the scene. It's a touching thing. So Val went to Juilliard, and he was to be an actor, and was like the youngest person ever admitted to Juilliard. And so he's got footage of all this, and it's interesting because I forgot to write down the name of the person that he eventually married and later divorced, who he had his kids with. But when he was shooting Top Secret in, I think, Paris or London, he went and saw a play and fell in love with this woman in the play. And then years later, they ended up in the movie Willow together. And from there, they started dating, fell in love, and got married. They just coincidentally ended up together there. So he takes us through like an early play that he was supposed to be the lead in, and then became the third lead because Sean Penn and Kevin Bacon, they were able to get them. So he's got footage from them from like decades ago. This stuff that would never exist because who had video cameras back then, and takes us through all of his different movies and some of the feelings that he had during the movies. And it's really interesting kind of hearing his perspective. Val Kilmer's reputation in Hollywood is that he was very difficult to work with and all that kind of stuff, which may or may not be true. I mean, this didn't bring that, but this brought his point of view to it. The one thing that is clear, regardless of the impression of it, is how passionate and true to the art of acting it was. It was interesting because one of the scenes he's showing how, because he had this video camera, he knew they were making Apocalypse Now. So he filmed his own audition tapes, and he like flew and hand delivered it. But that's how he got the Doors. He shot himself as Jim Morrison. He wanted, and then they hired him as Jim Morrison. It's really interesting. I think we all have probably seen the Doors and how amazing he was in that. But just how he studied Jim Morrison and learned all his. I think he actually sang in the movie too.
He did.
But and so just how he went through that entire process, and and how a lot of this ultimately led to his divorce because it was just you're always away and all that kind of stuff, and the heartache of playing Batman, and he called it like being in a soap opera because there was literally nothing he could do because he's in this restrictive suit. And the real stars of the movie were Tommy Lee Jones and Jim Carrey.
So horrible.
Yeah,
the poor guy.
But that one wasn't the worst. It got worse after that. That Joel Schumacher movie was decent. And then I think it got worse after. The crime of that movie was robbing Lando Calrissian, Billy D. Williams of becoming Two-Face, which he had been set up in the first two movies.
Yeah. Hey, Jeff, if I could, I was gonna save it for next week, but if I could now, because I think it makes sense here, I'll do a different one next week. Interject with my bonus review for this week because it's so very similar. Is Kid 90 on Netflix, which is Soleil Moon Frye, Punky Brewster. She did the same thing her entire life in Hollywood. She videotaped everything she did. She also saved all of her voicemails and all of her diaries, and she kept them locked away in boxes and never looked at them for 30 plus years. And just this last year unearthed them all and started going back. And just like Val Kilmer, she was filming it during an era when there was no YouTube, no social media. So everybody she would interview, which were all teen celebrities just like her, it was candid because they weren't afraid of, it was just their buddy Soleil doing it for her own thing. It's unbelievable to watch, like just hanging out in her basement. It's like Brian Austin Green and just all these musicians that were big at the time. And it's a little bit, I guess, putting her life in perspective. Like, come on, you didn't realize that half of your friends were suicidal and on drugs, really? But it goes back through her career, starting as Punky Brewster and then becoming adult, which I don't know if anybody remembers, but it was a big controversy when she decided to have breast reduction surgery. That was a huge deal. And then her trying to keep her career going as an adult, going to college. But the videos are amazing. And even better than that are these voicemails that these people left for her. There's one thread that goes throughout the entire show is about her being a virgin, and then eventually losing her virginity and who she loses her virginity to.
Was it you, Howard?
It was not.
Oh.
It was not.
I was hoping.
If you watch this, it's a great special. She's really, really, she goes through all the way through college, hanging out as part of skateboard culture in New York. It's great. Very similar, it sounds like, to Val, and just looking back on her life. But the videotape footage it's just pure. It was just raw footage that they edited for this special, but nothing staged. Like, it's just, hanging out in a bathroom, smoking cigarettes with what's her name from Roseanne, the youngest daughter from Roseanne, from Big Bang Theory as well. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's great. So when you watch Val, take some time and watch Kid 90 as well. Really,
Val's
really
on
cool.
Amazon and Kid 90's on
Netflix.
Okay.
But
cool.
before we go, I want to bring in a special guest. Do you have time for a special guest star here? I just hold on, folks. I just want to.
You got
hold
what the
on.
heck is going on? Oh, what's he going? Is it Sal? Do you think it's Sal?
Hi guys.
Hi,
Hey.
Sally.
Great show. I just got to Bob's and I just wanted to say hi to everybody. Great show, man.
Thanks, Sal.
all
We'll
I
see
wanted
you,
to say.
we'll see you next
I
week.
give you.
See you
I
next
give
week,
you
Jeff.
5 tomato sauce jars. It's for the
Thank you,
cameo.
Howard.
Sal,
I appreciate that, Howard.
This
Thank
is like
you.
the end of a Marvel movie. What does this end scene mean?
Yeah.
All right, say goodnight for Bob. Sal.
That's why Bob sounded so great tonight. He's using my shit. Good night, everybody. Good night, you guys.
Good night, Val.
Say goodnight, Roz.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Good night. And hey, everyone, real quick, don't forget, we do check out our podcast, Matt Talk, with the Jason mentioned, live from Detroit, the Jeff Dwoskin Show. That's my podcast, the Sal and Bob Show. Zach's not here this week, but check out Some Nobodies. And we'll see you next week, every week. And that has been another episode of Crossing the Streams. Join us every Wednesday at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time, live on Facebook and YouTube. Follow the Jeff Dwoskin Show on YouTube to be alerted every time we go live with your hosts, Jeff Dwoskin, Ron Lippett, Howard Rosner, Bob Phillips, Sal D'Amelio, Zach Wiseman. We're all in the socials. Follow us. Listen to our podcasts, live from Detroit, the Jeff Dwoskin Show, the Sal and Bob Show, and Some Nobodies. Check them all out, and we'll see you next week and every week when we cross more streams right here. See you then.